And now,
from Greater Sandton and beyond, get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour and a very special edition of the show this week. I'm Alexander Leitner, and this is the Sandton Times Hour. A special welcome to everyone listening wherever you are in the world. Of course, if you're listening for the very first time, a very special welcome to you. Of course, our regular listeners in Johannesburg and Pretoria, across South Africa and everywhere in the world. Wherever you are, I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandtonland. And as always, I'd like to hear from you, so make sure that you get in touch. You can use the email address editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media at Sandton Times. Hop onto the website, www.sandtontimes.co.za, and connect on the WhatsApp line. That's 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. And make sure you use that for your voice notes, your text messages, your media, and so much more. And some of the people who made use of these channels whilst we were on a voyage, whilst we were traveling, they sent through their questions like, what is the ship called that you're on and where is it? That was from Margot. Ismarie wanted to know, what is the cruise ship? Where is this? Jeremy wanted to know, will this ship be coming to South Africa soon? And Jeremy, I can answer that one for you straight away. It won't, because it's just too big to fit into some of our harbors and there's some operational issues around that. But hopefully we'll get into answering that in a bit more detail as well in the next hour. And of course, how expensive is it? I want to do a cruise like that, says Raphael. Well, we'll try and answer it and a little bit extra in the next hour. Don't forget, you can also subscribe to the Sandton Times Hour on all leading podcast platforms, including Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and so many more. And for those of you who've been following the show for quite some time, you know that once in a while we like to focus on a destination or an experience or something that would be of interest to you and bring you a dedicated show around that topic. Well, this is one of those shows. Joining me on the team on the bridge and behind the mixing desk is First Officer of Sound, Vincenzo. And as I've hinted, we are mooring our usual content to set sail and take a look at cruise holidays and cruise ships. And not just any cruise holiday, and also not just any cruise ship, mind you. I recently had the chance to join the maiden voyage of the Norwegian Aqua, and I've brought back some impressions, some interviews, and insights that'll hopefully get you thinking about your next vacation plans. So I hope you kick back with me over the next hour to do some armchair traveling across the English Channel as we set sail on one of the newest cruise ships in the world. So, what's on the itinerary for the next hour? In a bit, I'll be chatting to a man who has dedicated well on 40 years of his career to the cruise business, and he'll be providing a behind-the-scenes look into what it takes to run a massive cruise ship. Stick around for this one. Then I'll be sharing an interview with the head of food and beverages on the Norwegian Aqua, and that should get you hungry and thirsty for more. After that, it's our usual entertainment check-in with our regular commentator. Then South Africans are slowly but surely growing within the cruise passenger market with double-digit growth over the past year on international cruises. I'm going to be including a bonus interview on the podcast this week for those who subscribe, and also there's a little something extra for you right there. And finally, I connect with a fellow media man in Germany who has his eye on the global cruise business, and he'll be giving me his verdict on what's hot and what's not. All this and more in the next hour.
the latest news,
The biggest names,
the best destinations,
the hottest entertainment. This is the Sandton Times Hour.
So there I was in Southampton in the United Kingdom, boarding the Norwegian Aqua, the first vessel in the new Prima Plus class from Norwegian Cruise Line. Arguably the cruise line's boldest leap forward when it comes to cruise experiences and cruise technology. Norwegian Aqua is a 156,300-ton ship. It's 321.8 meters long. It can accommodate 3,571 passengers at full occupancy and served by 1,388 crew members across 20 decks with 17 dining options and 18 bars and lounges, plus a new waterslide and roller coaster hybrid as its star attraction. It's quite impressive. This new vessel is 10% bigger than its predecessor and optically more spacious. I had a chance to test sail the Haven, which is NCL's ship within a ship concept with private concierge and dining. It has a 24-hour butler service, an exclusive infinity pool, a sauna overlooking the ship's wake, and even a cold plunge room. It's cruising, but elevated to the top deck. More about this on the Sandton Times website if you want to read about that. But I had a chance to meet one of the legendary members of the management team, Klaus Lugmaier, who is the Regional Vice President of Fleet Hotel Operations. And I wanted to get a better idea of what goes into running a ship of this size and this magnitude. To get us going, I asked him about his career to date and also how he got started.
I'm very lucky. I've been with Norwegian since May 12, 1988. So this is 37 years at sea, working with my dear colleagues from all over the world, sometimes 65, 67 different nationalities from all over the world. We are a great, happy family, all working peacefully together and delivering a great product, looking great after our guests and deliver our famous hospitality from the heart. I started off as a head waiter in one of our first specialty restaurants at seas in 1988 and was able to work my way up all the way through the ranks from restaurant to food and beverage director and all the way to hotel director and then general manager, and then was promoted to regional vice president in 2013.
I think your accent gives it away. I think you're from Austria.
I was
originally.
born in Austria, but I reside since 1990 in the United States, first on vacation and then became an official US resident.
Austrians seem to have always had a bit of a flair for hospitality. Why is that?
we are brought up, we love people, we want to make people happy, you know. We love from the hospitality part and we love the whole environment, no matter if it's a hotel, a restaurant, but there's nothing like a cruise ship. And Norwegian is number one. You know, we have been innovative since I started with Norwegian. Even before that, we were the first cruise line with a private island. We were the first, we started the kids program. We were the first, I was part of a team where we started freestyle cruising in 2000 on the Norwegian Sky. And many, many firsts, you know, from first haven in the cruise industry to so many different food and beverage options, which, you know, and then with freestyle cruising way back in the day and till today to the next level, and all innovations, total freedom of choice in dining, entertainment, activities, and the guests can choose and design their vacation to their liking. From the restaurants they want to choose from, you know, from a French bistro to a Cagney steakhouse to sushi to tabanaki. My favorite is one of them is Indulge, which has so many different food action stations and flavors from all over the world. So we can cater to anybody, to families, multi-generation, to single travelers. With the first studios we started way back in the day. So many firsts, and I'm very blessed to be part of a great team. But it's our fantastic crew and management teams on our ships. They make all the magic happen every single day. And I'm happy to be here and support them and be with them. And our guests, you know, without our guests and our travel partners, we wouldn't have all those want to come and sail with us, and we wouldn't be able to build all these fantastic ships. So we're very, very grateful.
When you say support for people who are not familiar with the kind of work that you do, but how would you tell somebody over dinner what it is that you do on a daily basis?
A lot of things, you know. The day starts early in the morning. I'm working in hotel operations together with the general manager. We plan the day, we see the operation, we walk the operation, we talk to our guests, get feedback from our guests, and of course in the beginning we set up everything together with the department heads. Food and beverage director is running the food and beverage operation, cruise director is running all the entertainment, and then the assistant general manager is working together with her team from guest services to onboard revenue partners, and of course checking our guests in and out and all those wonderful food and housekeeping, you know, very important, our rooms. You know, we loaded over 7,000 pallets, and it was very tight in the end, you know, to get everything ready and roll our sleeves up and start cleaning, setting up individual trainings. You know, the passion, I still have goosebumps, you know, and there's nothing better than this new ship smell, you know, when you walk around. And now seeing her in action, and the team has done such a great job and getting so much great feedback from our guests and from our crew is very rewarding. And as I said, the kudos goes to them.
You know, it's interesting when you say that. I was sitting having dinner and I was looking at how everything kind of was flowing. And it's the same thing when you watch people play golf on a professional level or even soccer. They make it look easy. But it's the people who make it look easy that have got some serious hardware and software working in the background.
Absolutely.
And it'd be interesting to get your insight into what makes a machine like this operate.
The crew and the management, the team is the heart and the soul of the ship and the operation. They putting the ambience in, they start up with the detailed training in all areas, set up everything, and then she becomes alive. You know, we do training, we do role play. Part of my job is also to train up the next generation, you know. I'm always looking out for internal talent, how I can nurture them, coach them, and so I can make them into the next food and beverage director, assistant general manager, or eventually general manager. So that's my goal. And all of us had the opportunity to be promoted from within. So we continue the trend. We have great talent from all over the world, and we're training them. And you know, I have the next me already in the line. You know, show must go on.
Yeah. What trends have you seen over the years in terms of how cruising has evolved, and what is sort of the next important thing now for people when they cruise? Where are you seeing this evolution now taking place as we move up to 2030?
The evolution is definitely when we started freestyle. We changed the whole cruise industry to give the total freedom of choice in dining, entertainment, activity, dress code, to be like a resort. So guests can design the vacation to their liking. They can eat anytime. Also, we can cater to multi-generation. And I think it's very important to have ships such as we are building. And they've done a great job. As you see, the guest flow is wonderful. You come on board here with your family. If you want to relax and go to the spa and get a wonderful massage, you can do that, or you can work out with your personal trainers or without. So you can live very healthy. The children can play in the kids area. They're fully entertained. You can indulge yourself in one of our beautiful beach. I call them the beach club. I mean, look at the pool deck. That looks like a beach club out of a movie. I mean, it is wonderful. So many freedom of choices up there. Vibe Beach Club, main pool, deck 8. You can walk around the ship and you really get in touch with the nature, the ocean. And I think the future is, first of all, technology has changed. If you ask me what has changed the most, is technology. The last 7 years, when I started on ships, we didn't have any way of communicating except the old-fashioned walkie-talkie. And now, you know, we are on WhatsApp, we're on Instagram, we get live instant feedback from our guests. What will never change is that hospitality from the heart. I think this is very important, to invest in every team member and train them and thank them and be grateful, because guests love to connect. So we want to hear from them while they're on board, you know. And you know, we love our guests from all over the world, but I want to give a special shout out to our dear friends from South Africa. Looking forward to welcome many of them with us. I'm a big fan of your country, been there many times. And I also want to give a shout out to my boss, Mark Hensley, is from South Africa. That's also one of the reasons that we're doing so well, you know, been working with him for over 20 years. And, you know, we do brainstorming ideas. We have leadership conferences. For example, we have all the general managers and captains and chief engineers coming in, and staff captains right on the way down from New York on Aqua down to Miami. And there we're going to have brainstorming sessions, sharing ideas. They will see the new product and, again, talking to our guests and listen to them and make it better. You know, you can always make everything better every day, but you got to listen, you got to look, and you got to definitely take care of the fantastic team members, as I said, the best in the world, and the management teams.
What have you picked up on the ship that excites you the most, or that you felt has been a real standout?
A real standout for me, first of all, the ship is gorgeous. She has a beautiful flow. Everything is larger, everything is bigger. She is 10% larger. She gives so many beautiful options, you know, when it comes to dining, entertainment, activities, and the beach clubs. All of our pools, they're like private beach clubs, and Haven itself, which is larger, and also a big hit is Improv. Improv has now turned into another entertainment venue, in addition to Sid Norman and the theater. So, and between the atrium, live music, I mean, you have a complete freedom of choice now in entertainment and activities too. So looking forward to see you all on board.
That was Klaus Lugmaier, Regional Vice President, Fleet Hotel Operations at NCL. After the break, I delve a bit deeper into one of the most important things on a cruise, food and beverages. Stay right where you are. We'll be right back.
Online, on air,
Anywhere, anytime.
this is the Sandton Times Hour.
So when it comes to setting the table for unforgettable dining at sea, few know the recipe quite like Christian Pratsch. As Vice President of Food and Beverage Operations for NCL, Christian oversees the culinary experience across an astounding 750 plus venues spanning 19 ships, private islands, and soon-to-debut vessels. From concept to execution, he's the mastermind behind one of the most innovative food and beverage programs in the cruise industry. And born and raised in Germany, Christian has blended passion, precision, and performance into every plate he oversees. I sat down with Christian and asked him what his day looks like every day.
That's very easy. I can put it in just a short sentence. Honored, privileged, and very fortunate to eat and drink for a living.
everyone's dream job. I'm sure you got a lot of people asking them, how do I sign up?
Somebody's got to do it, exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, you say that with a sense of humor, but I'm sure that also has its moments where you've only eaten so much panna cotta and so much Riesling, and eventually you say, okay, now I need to actually slow down a bit because it's just too much.
No, absolutely not. No.
How does someone in your job excel? Like, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on you. I mean, the first thing people look at when they come in onto a ship like this, they look at the room. Is it clean? Is everything there that I need? Next question is, what can I eat?
Yep.
And if the food's great, your job's easy. And if the food's terrible, you get to hear about it for months and years afterwards.
Well, especially nowadays with social media, you have a lot of references, a lot of critics, and a lot of people that tell you how to do what you think you're good at. And I take that with grace, and I would say also a humbling experience to see the various perspectives on what the expectations are. You know, certainly with this size of vessel, we're producing north of 20,000 meals a day. So to your point, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 1,500 crew, 4,500 passengers, they all eat and have every moment a chance to criticize whether it's good or not. Klaus very much elaborated already, and without repeating everything, we have an amazing crew. To me, the best in the world. We have certainly taken time to train and educate on the standards that we're expecting. That is only a small part. For them then to take it and convey the same message, the intricacies of bringing everything together, do it so gracefully as you mentioned already. That is something I cannot take credit for, because that is where it takes a village.
Has there been a philosophy or an evolution of constant improvement? And I say this because a few years back I was on the Norwegian Jade in Cape Town going around South Africa. Then we did it all again on the Norwegian Viva in Miami, and now Norwegian Aqua. This time also eating in the Haven, which is your ship within a ship concept, an elevated experience. And I say this without us sitting across the table from each other, but the food has been exceptional. And I say exceptional in a sense that it has felt like it's improved over the last 3 years. And I don't know if you've had some sort of program that you've rolled out, or if it's just been an evolution in the dining, but there certainly has been something that's happened.
Thank you.
That is worth noting.
I appreciate that. Norwegian Cruise Line, known as the innovator in the cruise line industry, has always put an emphasis on what we create and set the benchmark. It is no surprise to me that, and I hear that what you're saying is, you know, the improvement throughout the years. We have more so recently than I would say a little bit longer ago honed in on guest feedback so that we can learn what exactly our cruisers would like to see. Again, I can only say it's very challenging, though I like the challenge to appeal to everyone's taste, but we have such a comprehensive variety that I like to say that we do have something for everyone, or everything for someone. In this case, with the introduction of the Prima class, Norwegian Prima, Norwegian Viva has seen the indulged food hall. Part of that innovation for Norwegian Aqua was that we take record of all the dishes that we're serving, see the popularity, and then build onto that. This is one of the ways where we have taken a Thai concept, now here in Norwegian Aqua, Sukha Thai, to the next level of a full-service restaurant due to the popularity of a Pad Thai dish that we served in noodles within the indulged concept. Furthermore, taking guest feedback at its core is involving or building a planned forward station within the indulged food hall, Plantery, that now serves for breakfast, lunch, and dinner items that appeal to any flexitarian for that matter. Vegetarians can add a protein like the jackfruit cake and or tofu or even tempeh. But anyone that would also like to try, we still have a few smokehouse or the rotisserie seaside that you can add to those bowls that we offer there. So overall, our vision, our contacts to our success that you're calling, or if I may use that word, is to continue to evolve and be critical about what we do and how we can do better.
Another one of those representations of culture when you travel is the food. And I know that Norwegian Cruise Line up until I think this point has been very much dominated by American and British travelers. I think the German travelers are starting to increase. Has there also been a shift in now catering to that audience as well? Because I also noticed there was spätzle on the menu as well. There's always some interesting dishes that are coming in, and it's a matter of keeping your current audience happy, but also thinking ahead about finding a new audience or the next big audience that'll probably travel with you.
Yeah, I don't want to deny that. We're always slip a certain way in that we also like, but it's bring you back to the Indulge Food Hall, where we have 8 different stations here in Norwegian Aqua, and in these 8 stations, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, the menu changes. So to do easy math, we serve 5 dishes in each station. That's 40 dishes that change every day, 120. Take 3 ingredients out of that or into that, and this is where we have really an arena is where what I call it, to see what works or what does not work. We get instant feedback, and so far we've been successful with that.
Well, that was Christian Pratsch, Vice President of Food and Beverage Operations for NCL, sharing some insights from the kitchen as we cross the English Channel on the Norwegian Aqua.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
Taking you into the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leibner, and as always, if there's something that you listened to on the show, you heard something sounded interesting, but you didn't quite get the name, the details, or more information, well, hop onto the website, sandtontimes.co.za, check out the show notes, and there you'll get some further reading, some links, and that information that you thought you missed, but now you don't have to miss it. Also, check out the Sandton Times' social media accounts at Sandton Times, I think especially for this week, where there's tons of videos, photos, and additional media material to kind of fill in the gaps that the audio can't. And of course, you can also connect on the WhatsApp line, 084 Sandton, which is 084 726 3866, 084 726 3866. If you want to send through some voice notes, some text messages, or any other media, you can do so on that exclusive line. So even though we're having a bit of a special and a bit of a different edition of the Sandton Times, we still turn to our entertainment commentator, Tat Wolfen. Tat, it's good to have you on the show again.
Hi, Alex. Always good to be back. Alex, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'm actually going to turn the tables on you because, normally when I do this kind of show, people put me on the spot and say, okay, Tat, what have you seen that's interesting, whatever. I'd like to turn the interrogation lamp on your face today because you're telling us all about this ship. And, I love the idea of cruise liners. I find them very romantic and interesting, but I also want to be entertained. I can't be sunbathing all day long.
Sure.
So I'm going to ask you now about the entertainment options on the Norwegian Aqua.
Okay,
and
hold on a second. Let me just get rid of my notes that I had for you and throw that in the bin. Okay, all right, cool. Let's do this.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to take a break today. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a big roller coaster fan, and I also love water slides. And I've been seeing quite a bit in the media about a ship that has a water roller coaster on it. And I think it is the Norwegian Aqua, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. So, water slides on cruise ships has been a thing for a bit. I think what makes this slightly different is that they've kind of combined this roller coaster and water slide into sort of a hybrid entity, and it's never been done on land before, and it's never been done on a ship before. So it's a first in many ways, and what they've managed to do is that they've managed to create these 2 water slides that wrap around the top deck of the ship, but you are propelled in sort of a little rubber dinghy with these arms that kind of push you up to, I think it's about 30-40 kilometers per hour up this ramp, and they sort of shoot you into the water pipes, into the actual tunnels of the water slide. And that gives you sort of the momentum to go in. I must tell you, it was a freezing journey because we were on the English Channel, so it wasn't really the Caribbean. I think this is going to do much better in warmer climates, not the cold water that we had, although there might be some people in Cape Town who think this is a combination of water slide and an ice bath, which I know has also become very popular, these sort of early morning dips. So maybe it does something for your health as well. The people absolutely loved it. People thoroughly enjoyed it. It does start off very fast with those arms pushing you into the actual water slide tubes, but it does slow down, I would say, significantly. So it's not like you're going extremely fast through the whole slide. And I think that was the thinking behind this piece of entertainment, is that people wanted something that they can do often. So I think it takes you less than a minute to get through the whole thing. It's something that the entire family can do. it's something that they've tried to design for everybody to be able to do, and it's included in your fare, so you don't have to pay extra for it.
Oh, so that's interesting that it isn't, because normally with roller coasters and stuff, you have to be over this height and you can't have this problem and you can't be the other thing. So they've tried to make it quite inclusive. I'm sure I saw a video on YouTube about the ride, and they have these incredible lighting effects, don't they? You go through all these different colored lights, so it's almost like a Space Odyssey 2001 experience.
Totally. Yeah, no, listen, it's very, very enthralling. You're not sort of in a dark tube, dark tunnel for the full minute and a bit. And we've also put up some videos, a point of view video up on YouTube and also up on the social media channel. So if you're trying to get a better picture of what this looks like or what the experience is like, go check it out and you go see it firsthand.
Excellent. Cool. But I also want to ask you about shows and stuff, because one thing I find quite fascinating about cruise ships is that it's like being in a city. You've got restaurants, you've got theaters, you've got cinemas. I just find that wild. And the fact that they've got the power to run all these things while they out on an ocean trip kind of blows my mind. I wanted to ask you about the shows, because I know that at one point it was quite a big thing to do Broadway shows, like Broadway titles. But I think, again, I read something online that Norwegian is moving away from doing like your standard Broadway titles. And again, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so there was this big thing where they used to bring on, all the well-known West End Broadway shows, and they're quite costly, royalties and getting the cast on board and obviously trying to rehearse these shows and then also adapt them for a cruise ship, because they probably also have a slightly smaller stage than they would have sort of in New York or London on some of the big stages of the world. And Norwegian took the decision to move away from those productions and focus more on their own productions, one of which debuted on Norwegian Aqua, which is Revolution, which is a celebration of Prince and his music. And really the philosophy behind the shows going forward is that, and this is based on guest feedback that they received, is that they couldn't be too long. So people didn't want to sit there for 2 or 3 hours watching, sort of an endless musical. It had to have a plot line that was easy to follow, because let's be honest, people on holiday, people on a vacation, they don't want to sit there for 3 hours having to follow multiple characters across multiple different innuendos
timelines.
You know how it goes. And then also the music had to be something that everyone would recognize. So coming to this Prince show, I don't know if that quite ticks all 3 boxes, because although Prince's music is very well known in many areas, I personally didn't know all of his music, and there was even music that I didn't even know he had written that is actually also performed by other people. So for the most of it, it's a very colorful spectacular. It's very interestingly put together in terms of they've got many moving parts, and they've got the main song sung by Prince, sung by different performers, which I thought was very cool. So they didn't just have one male that sort of looked like Prince and he sort of tried to be like Prince. No, they kind of handed the microphone over and sort of pieces of his clothing that he was uniquely known for to different, female performers, tall, short, different races, different sort of interpretations. It was really interesting the way they did it, and I thought that worked very well. Also, I think you and I had spoken about this, because also Prince never really had sort of a clear identity. He was kind of a very hybrid, very fluid personality and character.
People never knew, like, was he gay? Was he straight? Was he white? Was he black? He hardly ever did interviews, which again made him mysterious. People didn't know quite where to place him. And I was always quite a Prince fan, so I think I would have enjoyed that show.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a good piece of entertainment. They've really put a lot of effort into it. It's a 2-year process that they put into this, and obviously lots of money to get it to this point. Would I book the cruise just to see the show? Probably not, but it's part of the lineup. It's included in your fare. You've got a fun evening out. And I think that's half the fun about being on a cruise ship, is that every day feels like a Saturday. So most of your evenings start or end with dinner and then a show before or after that, which is great. And that's just part of the mix here.
I don't think you would book a cruise specifically to see a show. It's nice to know that once you're on the cruise, you have live entertainment, sporting kind of activities, that you got all those different things to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
This wasn't the only live show on the ship, though, was it?
No, not at all, no. So they also had a show called Elements, which I initially didn't quite know what to do with, and it's also one of these shows that they'd created themselves. I wasn't quite sure where this is, where this fits into it. But it is actually an incredible show, because it is a little bit of a Cirque du Soleil, a bit of magic, a bit of acrobatics, but very, very well put together. And just they really harness the full features of this auditorium that they've built, which has got the latest lighting technology. I mean, at one point, it even snows in that auditorium during this show, which is just really quite something.
That's
There's no dialogue, there's no real storyline as such, but you can follow it, and it is visually just so enticing that by the time it's over, you're thinking, my goodness, have we been here for just under an hour? I can't believe it's over already. So that is a great show.
Just a quick thing I wanted to say about this Elements is that, often on cruise liners, you have people from different languages, Italian, Greek, whatever, and not just English. So I think a visual show like that is great because it appeals right the way across the board, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Again, I've been reading. I understand that they've done a show based upon Fleetwood Mac's album Rumours, which Fleetwood Mac's album Rumours has an enormous cult following. Whilst I was more of a follower of Prince, and I've known you long enough, Alex, to know that you were quite a follower of this album, of the album Rumours. Correct?
Well, yeah, I'd known about it. I mean, and we all kind of know a lot of the songs on the Rumours album, but I'd never really understood sort of the dynamics that brought this album together in some of the songs. And this is what made this tribute show to Fleetwood Mac's album Rumours so fantastic on this cruise. Because what they did was they'd had a band that performs in one of the smaller venues on the ship called Sid Norman's. And Sid Norman's is it's a pub. It's a bar. It's very intimate, very small. It's got a small stage. And this band used to always perform this Fleetwood Mac tribute on an odd evening on the cruise. It became so popular that you could not get a seat or a standing space in Sid Norman, to the point that people were literally flowing into the corridors. So Norwegian Cruise Line decided, well, you know what? If this is such a popular show, why don't we put this on the big stage and actually turn this into something? And that's exactly what they did. Now, the interesting thing about Rumours is that the full album supposedly had never been performed in its entirety by Fleetwood Mac whilst they were still performing. So what they decided to do is, let's do the entire Rumours album, but tell the story of Fleetwood Mac and tell the story of this album and how it came together. And it is so packed with drama and heartbreak and romance and all kinds of things that you can imagine, that it just makes this show so fascinating, because even if you know the songs but don't know the story, or you know some of the story and some of the songs, you will be enthralled for almost an hour by some of the incredible stuff you're going to hear, some of the incredible things you're going to see, very simply put together, using a little bit of LED, some simple staging, a great band, a very talented band. And I must say, it's one of those standout shows on this ship. I walked away from it and I thought, wow, that has really added a whole new dimension to both Fleetwood Mac and, of course, Rumours, the album.
Wow. So you certainly weren't just sunbathing on that ship.
No, not at all. And I mean, there's also all the different bars, all the different smaller venues where they've got live music, performances. I mean, that Sid Norman's place I spoke to you about also has a karaoke bar, which a lot of people will probably appreciate. And I think that's just, part of having a great holiday and part about, just switching off and having a good time. But listen, it's been fun turning the microphone around and being in the hot seat for a change. Thank you for your interest, and thank you for guiding us through this absolute smorgasbord of entertainment.
Well, it was fun having the pressure off me for a while.
Let's do it again next week.
I look forward to it. Cheers.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So I'm thrilled to reunite with a fellow cruise journalist who I met in Venice a couple of months ago when we were looking at the Norwegian Aqua under construction. We didn't have a chance to reunite on the completed ship, but he did do a leg of the cruise with the new ship. I did the other leg, but we are reunited here. His name is Christoph Assies. He's a journalist specializing in writing for German newspapers and German cruise and travel magazines. And Christoph, it's good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
It's a pleasure.
Christoph, let's get straight into it. You saw the ship under construction, as I'd already highlighted. We were in Venice together. How impressed were you with the final product when you saw it on the ocean?
Oh, I was very impressed. So I would say, in my opinion, the Norwegian Aqua is the most elegant ship so far of the new class of ships of Norwegian Cruise Line since we saw Norwegian Prima. So I would say she's more elegant.
Is this the way that you think cruise ships are going in terms of size, in terms of style, and also the experience that it offers?
So I would say we saw over the last years new styles on board of cruise ships, Every cruise line has its own style, I would say its own DNA. This is also applies to the attractions on board and the type of entertainment.
Where would you say this particular product falls? I mean, it's not your ultra luxury experience, although maybe if you go into the Haven, that might be more your style, but it's also not your cheap weekend, 100 euros a night sort of experience where you kind of have a cruise to nowhere.
No, it's premium when you go on board, when you see, by the way, the deck chairs, the whole flair on board and the quality of food. And you didn't find a simple deck chair on board. You find more comfortable deck chairs, and the whole style of the ship is premium.
Maybe you've already touched on this a little bit, but what do you think are some of the highlights of the ship when you came off and you sort of reflected on your experience?
The Norwegian Aqua is very elegant. So one of my highlights is just the style and the flair on board. And on the culinary side, you have so much restaurants on board, but on the culinary side, the Indulge food hall at the aft of the ship with the different food stations with specialities of all over the world and the new plant-based food. That's one of my highlights. And in the entertainment, a top level of entertainment on board the NCL ships.
And this is also an interesting observation from somebody who's obviously experienced a lot of different ship offerings, especially being based in Europe. You obviously have an opportunity to see and experience a lot of different products out on the market, and the cruise market is certainly growing. I like that you touched on the Indulge food hall, because I think that's also an interesting experience, because for those people who are not familiar with it, consider it almost like a food hall like you would expect in some of our bigger shopping centers in South Africa. But instead of having to go to each little shop and order your pizza or your Chinese chicken or your Mexican or whatever it is that you like, you can actually sit at a table, you get an iPad, you've got all the restaurants on this iPad, you can select the different icons, and they actually bring you what you like. So you like the chips from there, you like the noodles from there, you like some bao bun from somewhere else, and they bring it to your table, and that is quite fun. You know, it gives you a chance to try a lot of different things. But Christoph, what didn't work for you, or rather, what do you feel needs some fine-tuning? Because it's never a completely perfect product.
I criticize the space in the still popular buffet restaurant in my articles about Norwegian Prima a few years ago. And now I came on board Norwegian Aqua, and it isn't better between the food stations, especially in the, I would call it in the rush hour for breakfast and lunch. It's really too tight in this restaurant. And that's my main point. What didn't work so good. So you have to have more space in the buffet restaurant. And if you read the commentary, maybe on Cruise Critic, you find that aspect again and again.
It's interesting with these buffet restaurants. I know we've also got some local ships as well. And when it comes to the buffet, especially peak times, breakfast, lunch, dinner, sometimes people don't find seats. Sometimes people can't get to the food, or the food is finished by the time they get there. So there seems to be a bit of an ongoing issue. Interesting enough, though, on these ships, because they are considered to be somewhat bigger. And it's interesting that they haven't factored in that increase in space for these buffet restaurants, given that they've got a bit of extra space. So very interesting observation there. There's so many new ships coming online this year. I know there's a lot of sailings. I know you've got a couple lined up. You've already got a few under your belt for this year. Any ships outside of this that you are looking forward to, that you're keeping an eye out for, that we should be following?
Yeah, the cruise industry, I would say, is such a great industry, and the diversity of products is so big. I think everybody who stays year by year in a resort, a shore for holiday, should try a cruise. You get so much for your money, and I promise that everybody could find his perfect ship for holiday at sea on the market. I would say my personal highlight of the new ships setting sail this year was on the German market, the Mein Schiff Relax, which is the first completely new design ship for the brand. Of course, German focused, different, but very nice. And on the international market, my highlight is the Star of the Seas from Royal Caribbean. It is the second Icon class ships built in Finland at Mayatukku shipyard. It is the biggest cruise ship in the world, and it's simply spectacular, but you have to love it to be with 5,610 passengers on board a cruise ship, but it's so spectacular on the point of entertainment and the diversity of culinary experiences and so on. Yeah, the Star of the Seas is one of my highlights.
one to certainly look out for, and hopefully we'll get a chance to chat about that at some point as well. Christoph Assies, a journalist specializing in cruise and especially for German newspapers, travel magazines, and also industry publications. Also got a podcast called Kreuzfahrten und mehr. And Christoph, it's been great having you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much, and all the best to South Africa. Thank you, Alex.
The best of Sandton and beyond.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
I promised those subscribe to the weekly podcast a bonus listen, and here it is. I had a chance to sit down with a familiar voice to the Sandton Times Hour, Kevin Bubolz, Vice President and Managing Director, Continental Europe, Middle East and Africa. When it comes to steering a brand through diverse international waters, few do it with the precision, passion and strategic foresight of Kevin Bubolz. Kevin oversees sales operations across more than 60 dynamic and high potential markets, including regions as varied as Scandinavia to Spain, Israel and South Africa. Joining me to talk strategy, innovation and what's next for cruising across EMEA, Kevin and I took a look back at how the ship was still under construction a few months ago and is now slicing through the English Channel.
It's remarkable, and it was on time, right? So that's even more remarkable sometimes. I mean, it's a huge construction project that basically the planning starts out 5 to 6 years prior. Then you cut the first steel 18 months prior, which already is like 18 months to construct something this big, right? And then they are on time in the end and deliver it in this quality. So kudos to the shipyard, Fincantieri, for delivering this beautiful ship. I agree with you. When we were on the ship in Venice, I had some doubts if it would be on time because it was just metal and cables and everything, right? But yeah, they can do this. Yeah.
So now the big work starts in terms of filling the ship, in terms of getting the itineraries rolled out, in terms of bringing it to life for so many people around the world. What does that mean for you in terms of making all of that happen, making sure that the ship starts delivering?
Yeah, so a lot of that work did start actually a while ago already, and we put it on sale 2 years back, and we started marketing the ship with just renderings for a long time. So now actually the fun part starts. Now we can bring it to life. Now we have actual photography of the ship. We have the guests on board. We see how everything flows and works, and we can make some final tweaks here and there so that we can perfect the processes. So this is all the good part. Now we can deliver the holiday dream of our guests, right? And a lot of the good work, the hard work is behind us, I would say. Yeah.
Norwegian by name, American by ownership, very much, I think, dominated by guests from the UK and the United States. But there is a growing international market. I think Europe has also started seeing quite a few nationalities growing in terms of your audiences. How do you cater to this new audience, call it, that is finding NCL as a cruise option and balancing your existing clientele, but also your new clientele?
You touched on our heritage. Norwegian actually was also one of our founders, right, from Norway, Knut Kloster. So we have this international/global DNA already in our company for a long time, and we have on average about 60 different nationalities on every cruise that are coming as guests. The largest group is from North America, and that's just because the North American cruise market is the biggest in the world, with about 17 million guests cruising in the US alone. Outside of that, for example, now for the first time more than 3 million cruisers. The next biggest market is Germany. Even outside the Anglo-American world, now a market that has grown this big for cruising. And so we see that kind of growth everywhere as the markets are catching up, because more and more people are realizing what a great option it is and what great value you're getting when you're going on a cruise and you have all these things already included. So we see really good growth in a lot of the international markets. And for example, also in South Africa. Last year was a very nice year where we had double-digit growth, and we are seeing in this market more and more people who are now looking at this as an option for them. Right, a lot of the people from South Africa have been what you typically do, like Mauritius and things like that, and now asking like, what else is there maybe for me to explore? But with a similar thing, like you have your floating resort, if you buy the More at Sea package here, which is a super good deal, and then you have all the drinks with all the premium brands included. You have specialty dining for a couple of nights included, and the Wi-Fi included, and things like that. So it is almost like a land-based all-inclusive, sometimes even better in quality in terms of the brands that are included. And you do this on a ship, ship, you have your floating resort, unpack your bags once, and then see a different port, a different country maybe every day. And in the meantime, you're watching beautiful shows in the theater and enjoying the fine dining.
Let's just touch on that. So you're saying the South African market is growing. That is South Africans going into the world and cruising with you and discovering new destinations. So is that on the upwards? Have I got that right?
That is on the upwards, yeah. And that is what we are doing really only, right? So if we put a ship in a destination, we are putting it actually into that destination because we want people from other places in the world to come and visit that beautiful destination. So if we have a ship in South Africa, means we want people from the US, from Europe, from Australia to come and visit and spend time before or after the cruise in the country and then do the cruise, basically. This is our concept. So we're not putting a ship somewhere to say this is for the local market mainly. This is the same for the South African guests. They are going everywhere else in the world. A lot of them are going to the Med or to Northern Europe, for example. That's the biggest destinations, but now also to Asia, exploring Asia with us, where a cruise ship is perfect. You like, especially if you do it for the first time and you're not 100% sure, then you can discover multiple countries from the comfort of a cruise ship, and then you can maybe come back and go deeper in a land-based vacation if you found something where you say, I want to spend some more time locally. But cruise is perfect for exploring the world, and South Africans are taking us up on that.
So we're talking about the Norwegian Aqua that we're busy sailing now from Southampton to Bruges and back. We already have the Luna in the pipeline in terms of your the next ship that's coming on, and almost every year there's going to be a new ship coming online. Yeah. What does that mean for the older ships, the ships that have been serving for 40, 50 years plus? Does that mean that they sort of then eventually get retired, that the product all becomes aligned in terms of the more efficient, modern, technologically driven ships?
I would say there's two things to that, or maybe a couple of things you can say to that. So first of all, yeah, we are now ordered. We have ships ordered all the way until 2036.
Wow.
So it's quite a way out, but you need to plan these things, and you need to get the slots in the shipyards. There are only few shipyards who can deliver this high quality in the world for passenger ships, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is we have a flexible fleet, and that's what we will retain as well. So you will see differences in the ship classes. This is the Prima class. This class is very much known for having a lot of space for every guest on the ship. It's a fairly large ship, but we are not cramming so many people on her. We want to have space for choice for all the different venues that we have on here so that people can enjoy their holiday. And we do this in a very high quality. And so this is what is a mid-size for us now. It's a 3,500 passenger size. We have other ships that are about 2,000 passengers that we mainly use for itineraries where we want to get into smaller ports as well, and where we want to maybe have a longer cruise that is exploring a destination along a coastline. And then we have other ships that are more than 4,000 passengers, and we predominantly use them also in places like the Caribbean, for example, where the ship is even more a part of the destination that you're going to, and so the guests want a little bit more that on the ship itself, like a big aqua park for the kids maybe and things like that. So we want to always have a flexible fleet. We will keep that as well, definitely. Still, now some of our ships are about 25 years old now, and typically if you look back through our history since 1966, we are running the cruise ships for ourselves normally around like 30 years or so, give or take. And then we pass them on to another operator, basically. So as we're building new ships, no plans yet, but I think it's pretty safe to say that at some point some of the older ships will retire from our fleet and find a second life then.
With that kind of order book in terms of going to 2036, that shows, on the one hand, quite a bit of confidence in terms of the growth of the cruise industry, but also it's probably also driven by data that's showing that the cruise industry is growing with new cruises, not just the same ones that are coming back over and over again.
It's what we touched on before as well. I mean, if you look globally, the numbers from UNWTO, from the UN Tourism Organization, and if you look at their leisure travel numbers, and then you look at the numbers from CLIA, the Cruise Line Association, like how many people have taken a cruise, last year that was around 2% or so. So 2% of the overall global holiday market is cruise today. Still tiny, I would say, right? Still a lot of room to grow, and still, and that's where major growth for us is coming from. We are getting people that have never actually cruised and have not considered it yet on ships like this, which are really these floating resorts, high-end, high-class, almost all inclusive, basically, and high quality. And this is actually, that's why we're gaining new fans all the time that have so far just been on land and now are seeing like, oh wow, I can see multiple countries. Actually, it's a perfect combination of I can relax, which everybody needs today, but I can also experience a lot of things. So that's what we're here for, experience more at sea.
That was Kevin Bubolz, Vice President and Managing Director for Continental Europe, Middle East and Africa for Norwegian Cruise Lines. And with that, it's all we have time for this week on the Sandton Times Hour. As always, you can subscribe to the Sandton Times Hour on podcast as well on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and so many other leading digital audio platforms. Feel free to send through your questions and your comments at any time. You can use the email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Connect on social media @Sandton Times and also visit the website www.sandtontimes.co.za for further reading, photos, videos, and all those good things. You can also use the dedicated WhatsApp line 084 Sandton, that's 084 726 3866, and feel free to send through your questions, your voice notes, text messages, and so much more. Thank you to all my guests who made the time to be on the show this week, or was it the ship? And thank you to the team who pulled this all together and made sure we sounded great and made this happen. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the week ahead, and God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.